Hi everyone, this is Laura with the Thought Bubble podcast. I'm so excited to be back. I took a little bit of a hiatus because of winter break and really just being able to be home for the holidays, get my mental health and spiritual health in check. So now I'm back, it's the new year, and I'm really looking forward to everything we have going. A lot of 2020 plans, resolutions, and goals, and a lot of things that are already in the works that I'm excited to complete this year. So essentially today for this podcast, I wanted to go over just those things. My resolutions for 2020, my kind of 2020 year plan, as well as talking about more long term. So what do I want my life to look like in 5 years and in 10 years? And kind of talking about how we can really formulate and shape those 2020 resolutions for something that'll impact that overall 10-year plan and where we really want to see ourselves and what our long-term goals are. So let's just start off with the basics. I do have a habit tracker that I keep, and I'm keeping it the same as I did in 2019 just because I really want to solidify those habits. So even though, I've gotten consistency in a few of them, just maintaining that, making sure I'm maintaining them, that's going to be a priority for me. And then probably in 2021, once I really see like immense consistency, they have become habits, then I'll likely change my habit tracker. But what that looks like, so habit tracker are just daily tasks that I want to instill into my life every single day. So I use the app called Habitory. It's a free app, and you can really just put down all of your daily tasks in this, and it keeps track of it for the monthly view, keeps track of your progress, and if you've had a streak or anything, so that's great. So I have quite a few habits that I like to maintain and keep track of. Even if they are already habits, I like to keep track of them anyways, just to make sure. I really don't know why, honestly, but just because I like to track things. I don't know. It's part of the planner in me. I really like to plan and just really, I don't know, maybe that's strange. I'm not sure. So anyways, I'll just list all my habits right now. So wake up early. I used to be very specific about this, but because my schedule used to be so intense, waking up early for me was anything that was, I don't know, probably 6 o'clock or earlier. After that, it's a little bit dicey. 7 o'clock really isn't waking up early for me, but probably 6 o'clock or earlier is good. My goal was ultimately to wake up at 5 a.m., but when I had that as a habit and I wasn't completing it, it really wasn't successful for me, and it was kind of a downer, honestly. So I kind of just set a general goal of waking up early. So whatever that meant to me during that day, if I felt I had woken up early, and typically that means I have woken up early enough to complete every single part of my morning routine and also get some work done. So if that means that I woke up early enough to complete all those things and, do enough to where I thought, okay, wow, yeah, like I got a lot done this morning, I woke up early enough, then that counts for me. So it's really just honestly up to my subjective judgment. Other things include cardio, resistance and strength training, 10 minutes of yoga, drinking 100 ounces of water, reading my Bible, praying, not engaging in temptation, so whatever that looks like for me. That could be anything. That could be, not saying a rude comment when I really want to, not gossiping, anything like that, because I am a Christian, I'm a spiritual person, and so whatever those things are for me, we all have those struggles. Maybe it's not snacking. That could be a temptation. So if I didn't snack today, I could count that as, no temptation. Read at least 10 pages of a book. I used to have this as 10 pages of a non-social work book. But, I really didn't get far in that because I love social work. It's something I'm incredibly passionate about. And so even outside of work, outside of school, I still tend to read things that are social work related or like a social issue. I like fiction, but I'm kind of particular about the fiction that I read. So it's not like, I don't know, I was still leaning towards historical, and it just got, so I'm just like, I enjoy reading social work books. I'm not struggling with burnout or anything. I think I'm fine. So I kind of changed that, that can include social work books and everything. Spending at least 10 minutes outside, no unnecessary spending. So if it was a day where, I had to buy a new Metro card or I had to go grocery shopping, that's fine. That didn't count. But if, I bought like 3 coffees, that's unnecessary. I have coffee at home. I have a thermos for that reason. Other habits, the last few are completing a Duolingo lesson, completing a coding lesson. The app I use for coding is Grasshopper. It's really easy. It really spells things out for you, and it's helped me learn a lot. Study, have 20 ounces or less of coffee, no caffeine, which I might take that off, honestly, because as a grad student, I don't know how realistic that is. So as a social worker, we know we want our goals to be SMART, and that includes our habits as well. So that means specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time. So you have a timeline. So no caffeine. I don't know how realistic that is, or if I should just limit it to 1 cup of a caffeinated beverage, which is typically coffee for me. I have to log my calories, so I use MyFitnessPal to log all my calories and exercise. I want to plan my next day, have a schedule, clean and organize my room, complete my full morning routine, complete my full evening routine, make sure I post something on social media somewhere, and also journal. Typically, I do journaling at the end of the day, but I do enjoy having journaling also in my morning routine. So once that becomes a habit, I used to journal every single day, every moment of the day. So now it's in my morning and evening routine. And that's that. So in terms of 2020, I have a lot of things going on. 2019 was a wonderful year for me and for my whole entire family. We had a lot of milestones happen. I graduated from my undergrad college with my bachelor's of social work, summa cum laude. And then I went on to grad school at Columbia University, which is where I am now. I have the spring semester, and then I will be graduating in May 2020. And my goal really is to graduate with a GPA 3.9 or above, which I don't think is possible for me at this point to graduate with a 4.0 since this semester that got a little bit messed up. Still good grades, mostly A's across the board, which is exciting. But so now I had to change my goal, which is perfectly fine. So 2020, I have some exciting things happening. As I said, I'll also be taking my licensing exam to become an LMSW. So a goal for that is to, continue to study and pass that exam on the first try. I'll also be looking for postgraduate jobs. The dream is to get a full-time forensic social worker job. I'd like to get my clinical hours in. So after 3 years of practice, I can also take my LCSW exam. If, however, the forensic social work job does not really count as clinical hours, then what I want to do and my passion is forensic social work. So I would do that as my full-time job, and then after hours, like 6 to 9 or something, and also Saturdays, I would be doing psychotherapy in order to get those clinical hours that would go towards me being able to take my LCSW exam. Also in May, that's when I'll begin to be paying my student loans off, which is exciting. I'm honestly really excited. I have a plan set, which is perhaps something we can go over at another time. Other goals include blogging 2 times weekly. So keep me accountable for that. I know grad school, being an undergrad and grad school, it's hard. It's hard to be consistent, especially, I'm working, I have my internship, I have my course load. There's a lot of different things going on. So I'm really excited to graduate and to be able to be in that 9 to 5 or 10 to 6, whatever, position where it just feels like you have so much time in the day. It's just crazy. I'm just like, wow, I have so much time to do stuff because I'm not at my internship. This is just a 9 to 5. Like, wow, it's so exciting. So really being able to have time to write more blog posts, volunteer at least 2 times weekly. I'm really interested in starting to do prison visitation. So I've been kind of doing research right now on different programs I can be involved in the area that I'll be living in, different things like that, because I would like to volunteer twice weekly. So one of those times would be a prison visitation, and then another volunteer opportunity each week would be something else. Maybe it'd be a soup kitchen, maybe it'd be some kind of other community organization, anything like that. I'd also do a podcast 1 time weekly. So a podcast would not be counting as a blog post. 2 different things. A goal, and really honestly, it's more like a task that I want to complete, is update and renew my professional memberships, because I think I'm involved in like a lot of things that I don't really know I'm being, charged for annually. So we're really reviewing that. I know I'm in the NSAW, and there's a lot of different honor societies and things like that I'm in, that I pay dues for. So I just want to really hone in on that, and also become part of organizations that would be beneficial for me in the future. So like clinical social worker organizations, forensic social worker in organizations, forensic psychology, behavioral analysis, things like that. Getting more involved in those specific social work, psychology, behavior communities, where I can really connect with other people and expand my knowledge just in terms of those very specific niches. In 2020, I'd also like to complete at least 50 hours of professional development training, particularly in forensic social work and behavioral analysis. Also a little personal, it's not really a goal, it's more something that I know is going to happen, is to begin wedding planning and to get engaged. Me and my boyfriend really have this plan set out, and so it's exciting. A lot of exciting things are happening. We've been together for at least 4 years now, and so we've gotten like some comments from other people like, why aren't you engaged yet, blah blah blah. Other family members who are engaged kind of making a little bit of snide comments towards us, but we're staying in our lane, and we're kind of like, what, we've had a plan, we want to be financially stable, we're being responsible about this. So it's exciting. We've been waiting a long time to finally be able to move forward in that regard. So that's something for 2020 that I'm really excited about. Another goal in terms of physical weight loss and everything, because everyone wants to be healthier. It's a huge goal to go back to the gym and whatnot. And for a long time, because in college I gained a lot of weight since high school, I gained like 50 to 60 pounds. And so being able to lose that is really important for me, because I don't know, I've like felt that dock in self-esteem and my energy and everything, and that impacts every part of your life. And so saying, I have to lose 60 pounds, like, wow, that's a lot. It's kind of like a heavy goal. You're like, wow, how am I going to accomplish that 60 pounds? That's insane. So I really just broke it down in terms of, okay, this is a 2020 resolution. I have a whole entire year to accomplish this. So that looks like 5 pounds per month. And 5 pounds per month is doable. That's completely doable, and something I'm really excited about. So kind of breaking it down in a way that makes you feel better and is realistic, right? It's something that's realistic and attainable. Another goal I have is to run at least 6 miles weekly. So that could mean going for a mile run 6 days a week. It could mean going for a 2-mile run 3 days a week. Breaking it up however, or running 2 miles every single day, because it's at least 6 miles. I used to be a very active runner, and it's something I really enjoyed. Not only did it help me physically lose/maintain weight, but also mentally and emotionally. It was a huge stress relief for me. It was a huge time for thought processing, emotion processing, and really just being able to really let go and de-stress. I also want to become certified in American Sign Language and also become a proficient Spanish speaker, because that's not my strong suit. Language learning is very difficult for me. American Sign Language is different, because that's more of a physical thing. But in terms of Spanish, that's always been hard for me to kind of grasp those things, since in my school and public education system, we didn't start learning a foreign language until middle school. And then I also want to contact one of my undergraduate professors and talk to him about his research and get some updates, because when I was an undergrad, I was his research assistant, and he was super sweet, and he kind of told me, I won't bother you in grad school, I'll let you, I know you'll be busy. So once grad school is over, I really want to, get back in touch with him and see how his research is going, and if I can assist him anymore in that, continue to get involved in research. So those are kind of specific goals. They're more like, honestly, tasks I want to complete, other than, graduating with my MSW, passing my licensing exam, things like that. But in terms of overall resolutions, what does that look like for me? So I think a huge part for me is, and for a lot of people, especially recently, is really focusing on mental and emotional health. So this first semester of grad school was incredibly difficult for me. I was really struggling. And I've talked about this a little bit before, but I moved to a new city. I was in grad school at an Ivy League school. It's intense. I was working. And there was just a lot of new things going on. And the way that I cope is, while I am an introvert, I find a lot of peace in being by myself, but I also do need to be around other people. And kind of my way of not adjusting, honestly, was completely shutting myself off from everything around me. I did not get involved in any clubs, organizations, anything like that. I would often make plans and commit to appointments or sessions or trainings, and then I just wouldn't show up. And I was just dealing with a lot of things, honestly, things that, were signs of depression or, anything like that. And depression and anxiety do run in my family. So I did think it could be that. But something that was really important for me, and I think it's important as social workers that we understand, especially when working with our clients, is I became such a huge advocate for mental health, right? Because I'm a social worker. Mental health is important. Being a Christian social worker, I think, is also interesting because I have really, at least in my church, I go to an evangelical Protestant church, the Christian Missionary Alliance, and so I know, at least within that denomination, we're very much okay with mental health. Like, it's okay to see a therapist. It's okay to do those things. It's okay to seek mental health support, which I feel like is not exactly mainstream in the church community, but something that I really have loved about the church that I grew up in. But something I realized that I thought was totally crazy was the one thing I was completely neglecting was my spiritual health. And so, because I saw, I was taking time for self-care. I was doing things I enjoyed. I went to the Museum of Modern Art, I did a lot of things I was enjoying. I was taking time for myself. I was doing all these things that bring me joy. I was reading more. But I wasn't feeling any better. And I think that's part of what really shook me, was that I was like, I don't understand. I'm focusing on my mental health. I'm giving me time to rest. I'm doing all these things. Why am I not feeling better? And so for me as a Christian, that's when I kind of got home. And this was during winter break just now, where I was really able to have time and absolutely no stress and no things to get done, where I was able to really reflect on this semester and reflect on my feelings and how I was coping. And to me, it really looked like it was a spiritual crisis I was in almost, because, as a Christian, I was very much not reading my Bible. I wasn't going to church at all. I wasn't involved in Bible studies or anything like that. And especially for me, I grew up in the church, and I grew up going to youth groups and Bible studies and church camps and all of these things. And so to not have that in my life at all, wow, what a huge effect that had on me. Because I do think spiritual health and mental health are incredibly tied together. Spiritual spaces and church communities can be huge, huge assets for people. I also understand they can be huge, what is the word? Negatives, honestly. There are church communities that are negative to people. And it's important that I also say that, because I understand there are Christians that are not good for your mental health. And it's important that I say that. There are Christians who are, honestly, should not have the name Christian on them. And it's really important that me, as a Christian, that I recognize that. And it's also good to not generalize either. It's a huge thing that, many Christians also need to understand. But it was really honestly a wake-up call for me, like, wow, this is where I find strength. For me as an individual, this is where I find strength, and I need to make sure that I'm doing that for myself. So for 2020, a huge goal for me is honestly to be spiritually healthy, mentally and spiritually healthy, and also honestly physically healthy too. But I noticed, especially in these last few months and in my first semester of grad school, wow, was I lacking in spiritual health. Wow. And just being able to be part of a community as well, because not only is like the spiritual aspect important, but it's that social support too, right? I'm in New York City now. My family's 9 hours away, and my boyfriend is out on Long Island. So even though we were a lot closer together, we're still very far apart. So I was very much alone and incredibly isolated. But if I had had that church community, if I had been going to those groups, that would have been a huge support for me. And it would have been at least once a week I was getting out and meeting with people and at least doing something, that would feed that spiritual part of me. So really for 2020, putting my spiritual self first, making sure I'm reading my Bible because that's important to me, So I think whatever you practice, religion-wise, spirituality-wise, whatever that may be, making sure that you are taking care of that spiritual part of who you are is incredibly important, and it's different than taking care of your mental health. I cannot stress that enough. It is so different than taking care of your mental health. There are some things that, we do the same, meditation, prayer, all of those things. Those can absolutely impact your mental health. I do think my spiritual health can impact how I'm feeling or something, but that's also, I don't want anyone to misconstrue that as me saying, if you pray enough, your mental health issues will all be resolved. I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying is spiritual health is important. It is a part of everyone, and we honestly, we should be treating that differently than we treat mental health, so doing things for yourself, self-care, that's mental health. That's going to therapy, that's mental health. Taking your meds, that's mental health. Cutting out negative people, that's mental health. Doing those kind of things, that's mental health care. But what are you doing for your spiritual self? That could be meditation, that could be journaling. Honestly, journaling is one of those things that could be both, and there is overlap, of course. But I really want to stress that I was thinking that my issues, and I don't want to say issues either, but the concerns I had and the things that were impacting my life, I was attributing it entirely to mental health. And that's not what it was, just being home in these short few weeks, even though I am with my family and everything, that's of course impacting how I'm feeling. But just being in church, reading my Bible, praying, that kind of thing, that's really impacted how I see myself and all of that things. Especially, it's such a huge part of my identity. So when you cut out a huge part of your identity, you're really left with a feeling of this hole in you. And I think that's just an important general concept to take with us into practice as we work with clients. What's missing for their lives? What's changed? Not just in their environmental life, but, have they all of a sudden just completely abandoned their spiritual selves? Because I do think we are all spiritual beings. I think it would be silly for us not to acknowledge that. We all have connections to things, to whatever we may believe, and that's important for practitioners to understand that. It's important for yourself to understand that as well. So those are just a few things that I'm keeping in mind for 2020. I think it's going to be an incredibly exciting year, and I'm really looking forward to it. There's a lot of different things planned and going on. I also want to talk a little bit about past resolutions that I had, because if I'm being honest, I've set some resolutions, I've set some goals, but it really has been different than, the goals I've had in previous years. So I pulled up my 2019 resolutions and I split it into 4 categories. So the 4 categories I have are health and fitness, soul and spirit, financial, and professional and academic. So for health and fitness, the different resolutions I had was complete cardio 4 times per week, 100 ounces of water every day, decrease my dairy, meat, and egg intake, replace coffee with drinking tea, try to decrease cellulite and stretch marks, get rid of my acne, have a solid skincare regimen, tone my arms and my stomach and that booty, and lose about 10 pounds a month. 10 pounds a month is crazy. Like maybe initially I'd be able to do that, but consistently maintaining that, hard to do. And also run 5 miles. So that was the ultimate goal, was to run 5 miles, and I could work my way up to that however I saw fit. So for soul and spirit, it was to complete 2 journals, read the Bible, form a consistent prayer life, be a better girlfriend and relative, be more selfless, loving, and less envious, make more time for friends and family, pray and study the Bible with my boyfriend Tyler, grow closer to God, and plan a mission trip to Africa. Now, one thing I will say is resolutions, you are allowed to change them. Things happen. Maybe your perspective changes. Maybe you realize, hey, this goal was a little crazy. It's great to set crazy goals. You want to make yourself uncomfortable. You want to strive. You want to overcome and overachieve, right? But it's also important to be realistic. Because if you just constantly set goals for yourself that are so crazy that you're never going to reach, it's honestly just going to get sad and it's going to become discouraging. Something I think is important is, I've done more research and I've really thought about it and prayed about it and reflected on it. But short-term missions trips and service trips, I've really been not a fan, honestly. It kind of just seems like, I can't remember the word for it, but I think it's like volunteerism, where you is it really helpful to a small village in Africa if I spend like $6,000 to get there and, be there for a week? Am I really impacting them and changing their life? Or am I making myself feel good and going back home thinking I've changed the world? And what I do, is what I'm doing worth it? Or should I just raise the $6,000 and donate it to them? You know what I mean? So that's really been on my heart. And I went on one mission trip that was a week long to the Dominican Republic, and I loved it. I loved every minute of it. We did a lot of service. We went to and it was through my church, so it was like it was a spiritual missions trip. But we went to a boys' residential facility for children, adolescent, and teen boys that have had like behavior and concerns and some criminal activity. We went to a retirement home. We went to an orphanage. We did all sorts of things. We really were able to connect with people, but we had to raise a lot of money for that trip. So is what we did, was that really impactful, or should we have just raised that money and donated it? You know what I mean? So, I said plan a mission trip to Africa. I think now I would change that probably for a goal later in life, and it would be definitely more long term. It wouldn't just be a week long. I think I would want to commit to at least a year in a different nation, so I would really be able to put down some roots, connect with the community, and truly help people where they are at. Because what can you really do in a week, honestly? Moving on from that little side rant that I had, so then we get into the financial section. So that would be save $20 per paycheck, and then the larger goal is save $2,000, give away $1,000, pay off my car, eat out only one time monthly, move to New York City, and get a new job. So I did move to New York City, and I got a new job, which is exciting. My ability to save $20 per paycheck, that was difficult. One of my biggest areas for improvement is my spending. I do tend to spend, and now honestly that I moved to New York City, it just seems like I spend all the time, especially when I'm tired and I don't want to buy groceries or I don't want to cook. And Uber Eats is such a huge thing in New York City. It wasn't really a thing where I grew up because it's so rural where I grew up. So I never really got to utilize those things, but now I'm going a little crazy. I also really do think I should delete Amazon off my phone. That's been a huge problem for me. So doing that, just be real with yourself. Honestly, be real. I stink at finances. I stink at saving. That's a huge area of growth for me. And so that's important to understand when you're setting your goals, because saving $20 per paycheck, that may not be a huge goal. That may not seem like you're actually saving a lot of money at all. But wow, that's a big deal for me because I'm really not good at saving money. And I need to understand that, because you can't create effective, meaningful goals if you're not being real with yourself and who you are and what your habits are like. All right, moving on. So professional and academic. These in 2019 were get a 4.0 in grad school. So this semester I got a 3.8, which was a little sad. I think my overall GPA is now a 3.9 though, because I was at a 4.0. Be at the top of my class and graduate with my BSW, which happened, so that's exciting. Volunteer for 300 hours. I volunteered a lot in 2019. Definitely not 300 hours worth. Not sure if that was an entirely attainable goal. I wasn't really being realistic with myself. I'm great at being realistic with my clients, but, being real with myself, that's a whole nother game. Learn Spanish. That should have been more specific. What do you mean learn Spanish? I know like 5 words. What does that look like? Should I be proficient in Spanish? Should I be able to carry a basic conversation? Like, what does that really look like for me? Begin to learn French. Okay, that's cool. Again, what does that really mean? Read at least 25 books. So here's the thing about me, is that I tend to start reading so many books. I find books, I go to Barnes & Noble. This is also where my spending problem is. I love books. I love buying books. I'm a bookworm. Totally used to read a lot more than I do now, mostly because now I'm in grad school. I definitely know that once I graduate and, I just get that job, I have more time on my hands, I'll totally be able to read. But the problem is that I wanted to have myself go from 0 to 25 books. That is like 2 books a month, essentially. And honestly, that was not realistic for me. That is reading a full book every 2 weeks. And I know that might seem like, wow, Laura, get your head in the game. Like, what are you doing? You can't even read a book every 2 weeks? No, I couldn't. I'm incredibly busy. And so I really honestly should have just made that more attainable. In 2019 as a whole, because I kept a list, I started reading probably like 10 books and I finished one. I finished one book in 2019. Honestly, I'm proud of myself. I'm truly proud of myself. I finished a book. That's exciting for me. I started reading a lot of books, and I honestly think, if I had focused my attention and really just honed in on one book at a time, I would have accomplished a lot more. But that did not happen, and here we are. So 2020 is going to be different. My goals are going to be a little different, honestly, because I know I'm graduating in May, and I know after that life is going to look different because I'll be working at a job. I won't be in school anymore. I'll have more time on my hands to do a lot of different things. Mostly when I say more time on my hands, I'm going to fill that time without a doubt. And I'm going to keep doing tasks and keep thriving and keep striving, but I'll be able to do the things that I want. It won't be filled with assignments and internships and things. So that's what I mean when I say that. But so I think 2020 will be different. I definitely think I'll keep that goal for 2020 is to read 25 books. I don't know if that'll happen at the beginning of this year. It might be a slow going start until I graduate in May, but after that I'm very hopeful. So at least that's exciting. Other 2019 resolutions were have a consistent morning and evening routine, so that stayed the same. Blog consistently. So what that looked like was 4 times a month I would have a blog post, and then 2 times a month I would create a printable. So that's when I was just doing like free printables on Canva, and now I sell them on Etsy. Gain 10 followers on WordPress, create a nonprofit business plan, make at least 2 professional social work connections, and write 1 social services children's book. So 2019, I did not write the children's book. I started to. Again, this is like the whole book situation. I get so excited about so many things. I have a lot of ideas. I have a lot of goals. And so I start a million things at once, right? But that's the thing. What happens when you start 100 things is that you're not going to finish 100 things. I started 10 books, I finished 1, right? Because I was putting all my energy into different areas. Put all of your energy into one area, finish it, and then move on to the next. That's something I need to work on. I'm getting there. It's a process. But, it's just one of those things, constantly being real with yourself, knowing your boundaries, and setting rules for yourself. So, we'll see about that. So those were my 2019 resolutions. I did complete a lot of them. I worked towards a lot of them and will continue to work towards them in 2020. But I think the main theme of today that I want you to take away from is be a social worker with yourself. Have smart goals, make sure they're specific, measurable, attainable. What's the R? Realistic, and have a time. So set a deadline. So, say, obviously it's 2020. So that in itself is kind of a timeline, so within this next year. But if you can get even more specific than that, like, I want to read 2 books every month, fantastic. That will lead to my end goal of 24 books by the end of the year, right? So really just being a social worker with yourself. Don't be afraid to be real with yourself. If you want to put a facade on to other people, that's your prerogative. But at least be real with yourself, okay? Because that is the only way you are going to accomplish anything and truly make any sense of progress towards the goals and towards your dreams and towards whatever you want to complete in life. Life is short. It's so short, but it's also so long. We have so much time, but we also don't. So don't waste it. Make sure you're working towards something that you want, that you love, and that you're excited about. Or maybe you have a goal to cut back on a few things. Relax a little bit more. That's okay too. But it's important that you're real with yourself, that you really just sit back and reflect and really self-assess, because it's hard to admit that we struggle with something. We definitely live in a time when we want to be the best, and we don't want to have flaws, and we really put ourselves on as people who are great and have it all together. But honestly, no one ever has it all together. Nobody. We all struggle with something. In 2020, that's a whole year. That's a whole year for struggles and for achievement, It's life. It's what life is made of. So it's just important that, you're real with yourself and that you're realistic. If you think 2020 is, just look at it realistically. You know who you are. You know what you're capable of. And it's just this important balance that needs to be struck of reaching for the stars, truly striving and pushing yourself and feeling uncomfortable and getting out of that comfort zone for greatness, but then also making sure you're just not repeatedly faced with failure and discouragement because you're not reaching those incredibly unattainable goals. So it's a tricky balance to strike, but you know yourself, and you know yourself, honestly. You know your experience. You are the expert of your experience and your thoughts and feelings. And so it's okay to create goals, and you should be in charge of that, but it's important that you understand who you are and what your strengths and weaknesses are, right? And then lastly, I again want to stress the importance of mental and spiritual health. This 3-week-long winter break has been incredible, not just for my mind, not just for my brain to relax, but for my spirit and my soul, and it just feels so good. I'm gonna be real. For a minute, I was feeling burned out. I'm like, oh my gosh, can I actually be burned out from social work already when I haven't even graduated grad school? Like, what is this? And it really shocked me, and it shook me to my core, honestly. But I had to be real with myself. I had to really take time to reflect, to do nothing, to give myself peace. And that allowed me to really focus on both my spiritual and my mental health, and to treat those things differently because they are different, whoever you may be. So again, something just to keep in mind for 2020, mental and spiritual health are 2 very different things. Sometimes like different things that you can do to care for those areas overlap, but as a practitioner and with your clients, it's important to remember that. We have spiritual needs, we have mental health needs, we have physical needs, all those things. They all go into who we are and our health and how we are able to function and how we are able to achieve our goals and deepest desires in life. So I really want you to take that with you. 2020 is going to be a great year. There are going to be hardships. There are going to be waves. It's going to be tough, but I'm excited about it. It's a fresh start. It's a new slate. And I hope we all just continue to become the great social workers we are, great siblings, great children to your parents, just whoever you are, to whatever person. I hope you just work at it, and that we become the best version of ourselves that we aspire to be, and that you truly chase after what you want in life, and that you have happiness and peace and love in 2020. Thank you all so much for listening. My name is Laura Swanson, and this is the Thought Bubble Podcast. If you'd like to learn more about social work or my story, feel free to check out my other blog posts on the thoughtbubblepink.wordpress.com. And thank you so much. Please, please, please leave your thoughts, comments, anything below. Contact me on social media. I'm really excited to hear from you, and I hope your 2020 is off to a wonderful start. If it's not, I believe in you. Keep going, and I'm here with you. Thank you so much. Bye.